Before we dive into today's intense story, a quick reminder. Over 90% of our viewers watch our videos but aren't subscribed. If you enjoy content like this, take a second to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. And if you find this story gripping, don't forget to like the video. It really helps us out.
I used to believe that love was enough, that if you gave someone your whole heart, stood by them through the storms, forgave the little things, and stayed loyal, it would be enough. But life has a cruel way of teaching us that love, by itself, isn't always a shield. My name is Rachel. I married Nathan when I was just 24. We met in college. He was charming, ambitious, always the center of attention. I was more reserved, drawn to books, music, and quiet mornings. Somehow, we clicked. He said I brought him peace, and I felt like he gave me excitement. The kind of excitement that makes you feel alive, like anything is possible. Our early years were beautiful. We got a small apartment in the city and built a life together. I supported him through graduate school while I worked full-time as a teacher. He had big dreams, starting his own firm, making it big. I believed in him more than he believed in himself. I cooked, cleaned, worked, and helped him study. I put aside my own dreams because I thought that's what partners do. You give, and you trust that they will one day give back. When he got his first big job, I was thrilled. We moved into a bigger apartment, and suddenly there were late meetings, networking events, company retreats. At first, I understood. I told myself he was working hard for us. But slowly, the man I married began to fade. He stopped asking about my day. He started ignoring small moments, like the time I got a teaching award. I left the certificate on the counter and he never even noticed. I thought maybe I was just being needy. Maybe I expected too much. So I tried harder. I made his favorite meals, surprised him at work with lunch, sent sweet messages during the day. Most went unanswered. He'd come home late, smelling faintly of perfume I didn't wear. I convinced myself it was just a coworker. Nothing serious. I didn't want to believe otherwise. One evening, I found a receipt in his jacket pocket. It was from a fancy restaurant. 2 appetizers, 2 entrees, and wine. The date was the same night he told me he was working late. My heart sank, but still I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was with a client. Maybe he just forgot to mention it. I was so used to explaining away the red flags that I had forgotten what real honesty felt like. A few weeks later, I saw a message pop up on his phone while he was in the shower. It was from a woman named Claire. The message read, "Last night was amazing. I can't wait to see you again." My hands shook. My stomach turned. I stood frozen, trying to convince myself I was dreaming. When he came out, I didn't confront him, not immediately. I smiled like nothing was wrong. I kissed him goodnight, but inside, something had broken, and once it breaks, it never goes back to what it was. Over the next few days, I watched him carefully, the way he smiled at his phone, the way he left the room to take certain calls. I started piecing together a puzzle that had been in front of me all along. His mood swings, his distance, the excuses, the lies. He was having an affair, and this time, I couldn't unsee it. I took my time before saying anything. I needed to be sure. I started tracking his location on his phone, something I never thought I'd do. One Thursday, he said he was working late again, but his phone showed he was at a hotel downtown. I drove there, parked across the street, and waited. 2 hours later, he came out with her, blonde, tall, confident. She kissed him like she'd done it 1,000 times before. I didn't cry. Not then. I just watched. I wanted to feel the pain fully so that I could remember it. I needed to let it burn. When I got home, I sat in the dark for hours. Memories flooded back. Our first anniversary, the time he cried when his mother died and I held him for hours. The promises we made, the dreams we built. All of it shattered by a truth I couldn't ignore anymore. The next morning, I made him breakfast like always. I didn't let on that anything was wrong. But inside, I had made a decision. I wasn't going to be the silent, heartbroken wife. I wasn't going to beg or scream or cry. I was going to rise, and I was going to make him regret everything. I began gathering everything I could: bank statements, receipts, phone records, messages. I made copies and stored them in a hidden file on my laptop. I also spoke to a lawyer, quietly, carefully. I learned things I never knew: how much money he was hiding, how many lies were buried under his business trips. But revenge isn't just about exposing someone. It's about taking control of what they thought they owned. I started focusing on myself. I enrolled in a course I'd always wanted to take. I began saving money in a separate account. I built connections with people outside of his world. I reconnected with friends he'd slowly pushed away over the years. He noticed the change. He began asking questions. "Why are you going out so much? Who are you texting?" I just smiled and said, "Just catching up on life." I wasn't sleeping around. I wasn't looking for love. I was rediscovering me. Then, one afternoon, I did something bold. I showed up at his office. I walked right past the receptionist and into his private room. He looked shocked. Before he could say a word, I dropped a folder on his desk. "What's this?" he asked. "Read it," I said. Inside were printed screenshots of messages, photos of him with Claire, credit card statements, hotel bookings. His face turned pale. He tried to speak. "Rachel, Don't," I cut him off. "Don't insult me by lying again." He stood there, speechless, and I walked out. But that wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. You see, I didn't want to just leave. I wanted him to feel what it was like to lose everything slowly, to watch his life unravel piece by piece the same way mine had. So I smiled and stayed just a little longer. I pretended to forgive him. He thought he got away with it, but I was already setting the stage for everything he never saw coming. After confronting Nathan at his office, I expected him to pack a bag, come home, and beg. But he didn't. He just stayed silent. For days, we barely spoke. He moved around the house like a stranger. Sometimes he tried to be normal, asked if I wanted coffee or how my day went. But I didn't give him much, just quiet, empty responses. I wanted him to feel the weight of what he'd done in the stillness, and it was working. But the real plan was happening beneath the surface. While he walked around hoping time would erase his mistake, I was planting seeds that would turn his world upside down. Nathan had always been obsessed with appearances. He cared what people thought, how they saw him, at work, at parties, on social media. So I started with that. Quietly, I reached out to a few of our mutual friends, especially the ones who adored him. I didn't tell them the whole story, just enough. "I think he's going through something," I said. "There's another woman, but I'm not sure how long it's been." They reacted with shock, sympathy, and concern. You might wonder why I didn't just expose him fully right away, because that would have been easy, and Nathan never learned from easy. Instead, I let the doubt grow around him. People started pulling away. He got fewer invites. Conversations became awkward. Even at work, his colleagues, some of whom I'd helped entertain in our home over the years, began treating him with cool politeness instead of admiration. I still cooked dinner, cleaned the house, smiled when needed. He had no idea I was talking to our lawyer every week, organizing every detail of our financial life. I learned that he'd secretly opened another account. I even found out he had been transferring money to Claire, helping her with rent, buying her jewelry. He thought he was in control. He wasn't. Then came Claire. I'd never spoken to her, never messaged her. I never even said her name out loud. But she was always in my mind, like a shadow at the edge of every room. One afternoon, I went to her apartment. I knew where she lived, thanks to a delivery address Nathan had used once. She answered the door in a silk robe, clearly annoyed until she saw my face. "Oh," she said. I smiled. "Hi, Claire, I'm Rachel, Nathan's wife." She froze. "I'm not here to scream or throw things. I'm just here to talk, woman to woman." She hesitated, then stepped aside. Her place was small, but well kept. I noticed a few expensive items, clearly not bought on a teacher's salary, probably gifts from Nathan. "I assume he told you he was leaving me?" I said, sitting calmly on her couch. "Or that we were separated, or that I was crazy. Am I close?" She looked down, guilty. "He said you two were struggling." I laughed softly. "We were, but not because of me. Anyway, I just wanted to give you a heads up. You're not the first." Her eyes snapped up. "What? Oh, he didn't tell you about Julia? Or the assistant from his old job? Or the woman he met at that marketing conference last year?" I was lying. But she didn't know that. Claire's face turned white. "I'm not here to break you up," I continued. "I just wanted you to know the kind of man he really is. If he could lie to me for years, what do you think he's doing with you?" I got up, thanked her for her time, and left. I didn't need to do anything more. The seed was planted. Back home, Nathan was on the phone, arguing. I didn't ask who it was. I just walked past him and smiled. Let him wonder. A few weeks later, Claire was gone, just disappeared from his life. I overheard one of his calls. He was pleading, saying he didn't mean to hurt her, asking her to call him back. She never did. He fell into a quiet depression after that. Came home earlier, drank more, stared at the TV without really watching, and still, I didn't leave, because there was one final step before I did. The house was in both our names. But the savings account? That was joint. I'd been slowly moving money, legally, into a separate account under my name. Every bonus I earned, every refund, every teaching gig on the side, I funneled it out of reach. The investments also shifted. The retirement funds adjusted in my favor with the help of the lawyer. Once everything was where it needed to be, I printed one last folder and left it on the kitchen table. It contained my divorce papers. Nathan found them the next morning. I was sitting on the porch with coffee when he came out, holding the folder like it was a bomb. "You're serious?" he asked. I nodded. "I've been serious for a while. You just never noticed." He looked panicked. "Rachel, please, we can fix this. I can change. I've already cut Claire off, I swear." I looked him in the eye. "It's not about Claire. It's about the way you erased me from your life and expected me to stay. This is not punishment. It's freedom. For both of us." He looked like a child who had lost his toy. The powerful man, the confident charmer, was gone. All that remained was someone who had never imagined his world could crumble so silently. "You won't get the house," he muttered, grasping for power. "I already did," I said, sipping my coffee. "Check the documents." He stormed back inside. I heard drawers opening, papers rustling, curses under his breath. 10 minutes later, he came back out, pale and trembling. "You planned this." "No," I said, "I survived this. There's a difference." In the weeks that followed, the divorce proceeded smoothly, on paper at least. Nathan tried to delay it, but my lawyer was better than his. Everything he tried failed. And every day he watched the life he took for granted slowly vanish. The friends who once admired him avoided him now. His image at work took a hit after rumors, subtle, quiet ones, spread about how he treated his wife. Claire never came back. And I was glowing. I moved out a few months later into a smaller but peaceful apartment. I started hosting book clubs, learned how to paint, and went on solo weekend trips. Not once did I look back. People often think revenge is about fire and fury, but real revenge? It's quiet. It's measured. It's walking away with your head high while the other person drowns in the silence you leave behind. Nathan taught me how to stop trusting blindly, but he also taught me how powerful I really was. And the best part? He'll spend the rest of his life regretting it. After the divorce was finalized, there was a strange quiet that settled into my life. For the first time in years, I didn't have to walk on eggshells. I didn't have to worry about where Nathan was, who he was texting, or what lie I'd be told at dinner. I could breathe again. I could sleep in peace. And most of all, I could start rediscovering who I was before I became someone's shadow. It wasn't easy. Some mornings I still woke up expecting to hear him in the shower or see his shoes by the door. There were times when I'd go grocery shopping and instinctively reach for the snacks he liked. Grief isn't just about losing someone. Sometimes it's about losing who you were with them. But grief can also clear space. And in that space, something stronger can grow. I filled my time with things I had forgotten I loved. I started teaching art at a community center on the weekends. I joined a hiking group. I started journaling again, something I hadn't done since college. For years, I'd let my world revolve around someone else's orbit. But now, I was building my own. And then, life did what life always does. It moved on. One day, about 6 months after the divorce, I ran into Nathan at a charity event. I hadn't expected him to be there. I was helping with a fundraiser my school was organizing. I was setting up a display table when I heard someone behind me say, "Rachel?" I turned around. There he was. He looked older. Not physically, necessarily, but worn. His smile was uncertain, his eyes tired. He was wearing a suit, but it didn't fit as sharply as it once had. Something in him had softened, or maybe just collapsed. "Hi," I said casually. "I didn't know you'd be here," he replied, looking slightly uncomfortable. "I'm helping organize the auction." "That's great. You look different." "I feel different." We stood there in awkward silence. He shifted from foot to foot, clearly unsure of what to say next. "I just wanted to say, I've been meaning to call you," he said finally. "You don't need to." "No, I do. I owe you an apology, a real one." I paused, then nodded. "All right." "I was selfish. I didn't realize how much you gave up for me, and I didn't appreciate it. I lied. I betrayed your trust. And the worst part is, I thought I could just fix it with a few words, or by cutting Claire out. But I broke something that I couldn't put back together. And you didn't fall apart like I thought you would. You walked away, and you left me standing in the ruins I made. And I think that's when I finally understood what I did. It was the most honest thing he'd said to me in years, but it didn't change anything. "Thank you for saying that," I said. "It doesn't fix anything, but it matters." He nodded slowly. "I just hope you're happy." "I am," I replied. "I truly am." And I meant it. That was the last time I saw him. I heard bits and pieces through mutual friends. He struggled at work for a while. People stopped trusting him the way they used to. The image he worked so hard to protect had cracked, and no amount of spin could hide it. Claire never came back. There were whispers of him dating someone new, but it didn't last. It rarely does when it's built on the rubble of someone else's life. Meanwhile, I was thriving. I got promoted to head of the arts department at my school. I started a blog, sharing stories about healing, self-worth, and reclaiming power. It grew quickly. Women from all over started messaging me, thanking me for giving words to what they felt. Some of them were still in toxic marriages. Others had just left, and many had never told their stories to anyone. But they told them to me. I didn't expect to become a voice for others, but sometimes life hands you a purpose when you least expect it. One of my proudest moments came a year later, when I stood on a stage at a women's leadership conference, sharing my story in front of hundreds of people. I talked about betrayal, yes, but more importantly, I talked about resilience. I talked about how we, as women, are taught to shrink ourselves to keep others comfortable, how we forgive things that should never be accepted, how we carry guilt that isn't ours, and how we can break free. The audience stood and clapped, not because I had survived heartbreak, but because I had turned it into something stronger than bitterness. I had turned it into strength. I never sought revenge in the way movies portray it. There was no dramatic confrontation, no shouting in the rain, no ruined careers. My revenge was quieter and more permanent. It was in reclaiming my life, my voice, my future. It was in becoming someone who didn't just recover, but rose. Somewhere, Nathan might still be telling himself that I overreacted. Or maybe he knows the truth now. Maybe every time he sees a happy couple or hears a familiar song, he remembers what he lost. Maybe he tells people he regrets everything. I don't know, and I don't need to. Because I no longer live in the shadow of what happened. I live in the light of what I've become. To the woman I was, the one who doubted herself, who waited up at night, who believed lies because she wanted to believe in love. I want to say, thank you. You were strong enough to survive and wise enough to walk away. To the woman I am now, never settle again. And to anyone reading or hearing my story, if you're holding on to someone who doesn't see your worth, let go. You don't need to burn bridges or scream your pain. Just walk away, heal, building and live so fully that they become a footnote in your beautiful story. Because the best revenge is no longer needing one.